What are they doing in there for so long? Ray rubbed his forehead with leftover fingernails. He looked older than his 51 years, and oddly, he'd become more nervous as the trial wore on, not less. Ray wasn't a lover or a fighter. He was an accountant. A day is nothing. We just had a 15-day trial with 126 exhibits and 28 witnesses. You want them back sooner? Bennie pointed to the empty jury box. Keep watching those chairs. It works every time. Suddenly, the paneled door next to the dais opened, and the deputy clerk entered. He was tall and fit, and his polyester blazer made an officially swishy sound when he walked. When Bennie realized he was heading for her, she rose. "They back?" she asked, her heart beginning to thump, but the deputy clerk shook his head. "They got a question. They sent a note. Court's in session in 5 minutes. Plaintiff still in the attorney's conference room?" "Yes," Bennie answered, and as soon as the deputy clerk took off down the aisle, Ray jumped up and clutched her sleeve. "What does he mean, a question? The jury has a question? What question?" "Relax, sit down." Bennie unpeeled Ray's fingers and eased him down into his chair. "The judge is coming out to read us the question. Then we—" "A question? How typical is that? I don't understand. What does he mean, a question?" "It happens from time to time. The jury sends the judge a question about the evidence or the law. It's nothing to be— what do they have to know?" Ray raked his free hand through his thinning hair. At the beginning of this trial, he'd looked like a chia pet. Okay, maybe that was an exaggeration. "Who said they could ask questions? Why do they get to ask questions?" "Because this is America. Now stay cool. Curtains up." Bennie gestured behind him, where the courtroom had come abruptly to life. The court reporter returned, cracking his knuckles before he took his seat, straddling the stenography machine. The deputy clerk and a young female law clerk entered through the paneled door and bustled to their posts at the side and the front of the courtroom. The plaintiff and his lawyer hustled up the aisle and sat down at their counsel table, and the lawyer nodded, acknowledging Bennie. Bennie nodded back. But that was as friendly as she ever got with opposing counsel, if you didn't count giving them the finger behind her legal pad. She wasn't trying to win friends. She was trying to win cases. Her loyalty remained with her client, even one as panicky as Ray. Especially one as panicky as Ray, who leaned over and started whispering so close she could smell lunch on his breath. Ray Fenelil was the only person in the world still eating liverwurst and onions. "What do you think they'll ask? What could they not understand?" "Quiet. Stand up." Bennie rose as Judge William Delburton, a gray-haired Carter appointee who'd been tough, if even-handed, during the trial, swept into the courtroom. He sat in his high-backed leather chair on the paneled dais underneath the thick golden seal of the United States courts. In his hands rested a single piece of folded paper, which he studied as the deputy clerk said his lines. "All rise!" cried the deputy clerk, needlessly. The parties were already on their feet, and the gallery was empty. "Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge William Delburton presiding." "You may be seated," the judge said. "Good afternoon, everyone." He glanced at Bennie as she sat down. Then at plaintiff's counsel table. "Counsel, as you may have heard, our jury has a question. I'll read it to you." Ray grabbed Bennie's hand. She pretended not to notice. Litigation reduced men to little boys, and women to Gloria Allred. Judge Delburton slipped on black reading glasses that matched his robe. "The question reads, Judge Delburton, are we allowed to give the plaintiff more than the $3 million he is asking for?" "Oh, my God!" Bennie's mouth went dry. This couldn't be happening. It was a runaway jury. Ray slumped in his seat like a crash test dummy. Judge Delburton gestured to plaintiff's table. "Counsel, what is plaintiff's position on the answer to this question?" "Thank you, Your Honor." Plaintiff's counsel rose and couldn't hide a giddy chuckle. "The answer to the question is yes. In addition to the $3 million in compensatory damages, plaintiff is entitled to punitive damages. We put on substantial evidence of the invidious nature of the misconduct and fraud perpetrated by the defendant company and its owner, Mr. Fenelil. An award in excess of the $3 million in damages is more than justified. Thank you. Judge Delberton slipped off his glasses and turned to Bennie. Ms. Rosato, for the defense, your thoughts on this matter? Thank you, Your Honor. Bennie swallowed with difficulty and rose on weak knees. The answer to the jury's question should be no. The jury may not extend damages to a figure that plaintiff's evidence doesn't factually support. The jury should be charged again and told that they are required to base their verdict on the evidence, not on anything else. Thank you, counsel. Judge Delberton slipped his glasses back on and placed the juror's note neatly on his desk. The document would be nice and flat for the appeal that would surely follow either way. I have your arguments, and I hold that we will answer the question in the affirmative. The plaintiff did request punitive damages, so the jury may award damages in excess of the compensatory amount of $3 million. I will so instruct them. Objection, for the record, Bennie said reflexively. She glanced over at Ray, who looked as if he were ready to hurl. The deputy clerk brought the jury back into the courtroom, and the judge answered their question and sent them out to deliberate again. Then the judge and his staff left the courtroom. The plaintiff and his lawyer gloated down the aisle, and Bennie turned to Ray. But by now she had her bearings. "Ray, don't freak," she said. But it was too late. "How can I not? Didn't you hear what they said?" Ray tore off his glasses and slapped a hand to his face, rubbing reddish streaks into his cheek. "You're going to give him more than $3 million. No, that's not necessarily so. I admit this looks bad, but you never know with a jury question. This is a disaster. A disaster! How can they do this to me?" "Ray, wait. Calm down." Bennie reached across counsel table for a gray plastic pitcher, shook a styrofoam cup from the upside-down stack, and poured him some water. "Please listen to me. We don't know where that question came from, and we don't know what it means. It's not necessarily a question the whole jury has, and it most likely isn't. Somebody could have a stray hair. It happens, but the question—" Ray gulped water, and some splashed over the rim. "Didn't you hear that question? What am I going to do? This is unreal. This is a catastrophe." "I don't think the plaintiff proved his case. You didn't think so either, remember? We thought that they lost, and nothing has changed, except for the jury question. So my opinion remains the same." Bennie looked directly into his stricken eyes, which were peering over the styrofoam like Kilroy. Scharf was a lousy witness, remember? He was angry on the stand, not sympathetic, and angry plaintiffs never win. Remember my angry plaintiff theory? No. Yes, you do. Bennie leaned over. "Ray, look, I've seen this before. Everybody goes crazy when the jury asks a question. Everybody tries to read the tea leaves. People run and scatter. Don't lose your head." "But they asked the question." "Forget the question. We don't know what it means, and we can't do anything about it. Our defense went in very nicely. You were a great witness, and so were Jake and Marty. We were in the right. We told the truth, so stay the course." "The course is what got me here. The course is going to kill me." Ray set down the cup, spilling water on the table. "Shouldn't I settle? Maybe I can still settle. They wanted $500,000 last time we asked, and you didn't have it. You knock over a gas station since then?" Bennie didn't wait for an answer. "And I'm sure their demand just went up, so we have no choice but to wait. But it's like waiting to get hit by a train. I'm tied to the tracks here." "Wait and stay calm." "Easy for you to say," Ray exploded, his voice echoing in the empty courtroom. His eyes flashed with sudden anger. "If I lose, you won't have to pay a dime. You just go on to the next case. You're a typical fucking lawyer." Bennie felt stung. Silence fell between them. The clock on the wall ticked away. This time she was sure of it. "We're in this together, Ray," she said, after a minute. She didn't expect him to believe it, but it was true. Only half an hour later, court was back in session, and the jury was entering the jury box. The jury foreman held a piece of white typing paper in his hand. It was the verdict sheet, which contained a single question and answer. The courtroom went completely quiet.